This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
I'm George Gordon. On Boomer Life today, we're talking about the latest innovations in hearing and offering some real solutions for those who are suffering from hearing loss. And joining us in studio, Dr. Ted Venema, the registered audiologist and NexGen hearing expert, we're talking about a lot of the differences between those things that afflict us. And we were talking about the difference between vision problems and hearing problems.
That's right. Yeah, and we were saying earlier too that vision loss is just a matter of light not being properly conducted to the back of the eye. So glasses just refocus light properly. You're done. Whereas hearing loss is a bit different. The damage is done to the sensory hair cells of the inner ear. That's like the retina of the ear, in quotes. And when that's the case, hearing aids are very helpful. But hearing aids for the ear are not like glasses for the eye. Hearing aids are dramatically help, but they don't cure or fix all the problems. It's a hearing aid. Think of it like a cane for a bad knee. It helps, but it doesn't replace the real McCoy. And this is not to say they're useless, because it's diametrically the opposite is true. The market is only 20% of people who should wear hearing aids wear hearing aids. It's really quite incredible.
That is astounding. I'm starting to see the problems with people making the connection, not making the connection, and the percentages that you explain on the number of people who have hearing loss under 65 and then over 65. It'll knock you on your backside when you start looking at them.
30% of people over 65 have significant hearing loss that should be aided with hearing aids. 50% or more of people over 75 have hearing loss. And it's, again, the trouble with treble. They can't hear high pitches. And when you can't hear high pitches, you can't hear the consonants, the lip and tongue sounds of speech. And when that's an issue, you can't hear what people are saying. Hearing aids help so dramatically in that case. They don't just make sounds louder. By the way, like glasses, they need a prescription, because everybody has different hearing sensitivity across the pitch range. Everybody's hearing loss is going to be different, just like everybody's vision loss is going to be different. I can't wear your glasses, you can't wear mine. And it's the same with hearing aids, but people don't know that. And it's because, as we were saying in the first segment, hearing loss tends to be invisible, and people can't see it. And so they just don't think about it the same way people do with eyeglasses. It just doesn't have the public profile. And yet it's so rampant and so, if people with hearing loss wore hearing aids, communication is improved so dramatically. But people need realistic expectations of hearing aids. And again, hearing aids for the ear are not like glasses for the eye. The damage to the ear is different than damage to the eye. And so one's apples and one's oranges. They're different kettles of fish. Never compare the two. In fact, I tell audiologists when I do training, learn a little bit about optometry, because when you know who you're not, you have a better idea of who you are.
We talk about a 75-year-old person now who has lived, life through the 40s and the 50s, and perhaps would not have been exposed overall to as much loud noise, damaging noise, as the younger generation. We were talking about the young people with the earphones on or the earbuds in, and they've got the music cranked up. There's more traffic. There's more air traffic. There's more people. So the damage to our eardrums is, I would think, going to be increasing.
It's called noise pollution. And it's the second most common cause of hearing loss in the world. It doesn't really destroy the eardrum, but it actually ruins those hair cells of the inner ear. Again, age does it, and that's called presbycusis. and noise-induced hearing loss, NIHL. Just Google it up sometime. It'll pop right up. And people don't stare into the sun. Everybody knows you're going to go blind. But for some reason, people think you can just, that the ear is impervious to the ravages of noise, and it's not. Elderly people in Africa have better hearing than elderly people in Canada. And the reason why is because we're more industrialized, and we have more noise induced hearing loss than they do in Africa. And so you've got, our ears were meant to hear the soft voices spoken over a crackling of a fire. They weren't meant to hear steel on steel. That industrial revolution did it to us.
And it's getting worse. And I don't think we think about hearing health safety. I mean, we'll put on glasses before we go and cut the lawn.
Yeah.
But we don't put earplugs in.
And
I mean, you see in industrial settings they do that now.
And it's getting better. It's getting, ing, it's getting better. People are, industries now, there are laws that require, if the noise is over 85 decibels, it's law that they have to provide hearing protection for the employees. And I am beginning to notice people across the street from me in the summer when they're mowing their lawns, some of them are putting earplugs in. Well, good.
Well, it's going to get, we won't be cutting lawns in the future because we'll be growing cactus and stuff like that.
That's about it. Yeah,
one of the things that I think you point out, and fairly so, is that when people can't hear, they feel lost.
Yeah.
They feel disconnected. And that can lead to a lot of other problems, mental problems.
It leads to relationships problems. Hearing is a communicative sense. Unlike vision is an environmental sense. I mean, that's how we're aware of our environment. But hearing is for speech. Hearing is for communication. And when communication breaks down, relationships are affected. And the isolation resulting from hearing loss is significant, and it leads to depression. It certainly can aggravate the onset of elderly dementia. I mean, it's these things are being studied today, and statistical findings are coming out that wearing hearing aids is shown statistically in research to keep people. They're shown that they keep people in the ballpark. They keep you in the game. They keep you in the game of life, communication. And that communication and being able to contact your other significant others is very important. And
let's not lose sight of that. That's we've got a couple of more segments coming up. I'd like to spend maybe a whole segment just talking about that. I think that's very important.
Yep, it is.
I know that we joke a lot, you know, my husband's got selective deafness, especially when I ask him to do the dishes.
Yeah,
or,
I always hear that
stuff
too.
like that.
Yeah.
But
or he can hear, he just doesn't listen.
Well, and I suppose it goes hand in hand. True that if you are having hearing problems and you tune out of a conversation, people just say, "Oh, well, he doesn't care."
Yeah, exactly.
It
has all kinds of different things happen as a result of hearing loss. You're dead on. That teachers will miss it and they'll think the child's got learning disabilities. Significant others will think the person's just doesn't care, as you say. It's just like hearing is a communicative sense. And one thing I wanted to mention about the noise, I mean, how much is too much? If you can hear sound coming out of someone's headphones and you're not wearing the headphones, let that be a beacon to you. That's a litmus test. Can you imagine the sound pressure hitting that guy's eardrums? And again, it doesn't ruin the eardrums or the little bones in the middle ear, the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. It kills the inner ear, which in quotes is like the retina, so to speak, of the ear. And when that's damaged, it's permanent, of course.
Who are more likely to become deaf first, earlier, whatever? Men or women?
Both.
Really?
Both. There's no statistical difference. Usually at around 65, that's the onset of presbycusis, treble hearing loss. Do you know that in Wales, a guy invented, he called it the mosquito, and he didn't want people hanging around his store. So he had the speaker that emitted extremely high-pitched sound. And adults, 45 years old, couldn't hear it. But teenagers, they could.
Wow.
And so it would drive them bonkers. I mean, they'd be going, "Oh, let's get out of here." And he'd be going, "Good, I'm shed of you." You're like, I think how diabolical, But when you're young, you have extremely good ultra-high pitch hearing. And you keep, throughout the decades of your life, you keep losing high pitch. And it's okay because a lot of it is out of the range of speech anyway. But after about 65, it starts to invade the frequencies that we're familiar with. And then you've got trouble understanding what the word was. Did they say dishes or fishes? You're always trying to catch up. You're always using your mind. What was the context? What were they talking about again? Oh, Palmolive soap. Oh, yeah, dishes. And finally, that leads to actual mental fatigue. You're tired because you're always trying to catch up And then you finally give up and you say, you guys go on out, I'm going to read a book, you guys go on out and have a good time.
Wow.
That's the isolation caused by hearing loss.
Now, today, before this program is out, we're going to tell you how you can get a free hearing test.
Exactly.
Through NexGen Hearing or Mainland Hearing. And something even more astounding, and that's a free trial of a hearing assist device.
Absolutely.
We'll get into that in a little bit more. So we talked about it's pretty even between men and women.
Yep.
Who's going to dig their heels in first about going to go get that hearing tested?
Men. Stigma.
Macho. Yeah.
Men also have worked more in noisy situations. Just stereotypic, I'm making the generalizations here, but more men have been exposed to noise. So more men have a combination then of presbycusis, elderly hearing loss, and noise-induced hearing loss. So, but yeah, I think the women, usually being the more smart of the genders, tends to admit and just do something about it. Whereas the guy is often dragged in by his ear, by his significant other saying, because that's the thing about hearing loss, is it affects not only the person who has it, it affects others. Because
everybody around them.
Yes, because it's a communication sense. And so I remember in my practice, I kept seeing spouses dragging their significant other in. And often it was a he, not always, but he didn't want to mess with it, but she's sick and tired of him not being able to follow in a conversation.
We have seen the television footage of small children, babies, who are given a cochlear implant. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And you see the looks on their faces when they hear sound for the first time. They light up, and the joy in their face, because it's a whole new dimension to their life.
Oh, if you want to see a tearjerker, check out some of those YouTubes. Just Google up cochlear implants first fit or whatever, and you will see, now, which is a different thing, of course, because these are young people who have been born deaf. Now, cochlear implants are for people who've got no hearing. They're not aidable with hearing aids. If you've got no hair cells, you've got nothing to aid, okay? So a cochlear implant is actually inserted into that snail shell shaped, done surgically, and then it's left to heal for 6 weeks or whatever. And then an audiologist, not usually a hearing instrument practitioner, but a specially trained audiologist, then turns on the implant and tunes it to make all the pitches audible and for that particular person. And the kid's eyes just light up. Just like, it's like a jaw dropper.
So we'll talk about how we drag mostly the male, the adult male, to the to get the hearing test done, and the difference that it can make in their lives and what they notice after, because it is so important. Have you seen that look on the face of the adult male or adults and parents, like, holy cow?
Yeah, this is what I've been missing. Yeah. And at first, when you're first tuning a hearing aid, you don't crank it right up. Audiologists and hearing instrument practitioners, HIPs we'll call them, they know better. When you turn a hearing aid, when you fit someone with hearing aids, you walk in baby steps first. And because you don't want the person to be, blown away. We know prescription-wise how much to amplify for any particular hearing loss, and that's called one's target. That's what you're shooting for. But we start out shy of that, to let the person wade in the water and start hearing things better, and then in the next visit, fine tuning and things like that. Hearing aid fittings require several visits, which is, we want to make sure that you're happy with the sound of the hearing aids, and we tune them to address your specific complaints, and etc. We walk a walk with you, essentially.
You gotta walk the walk before you can talk the talk and be heard talking. Okay, I get it. So, in talking about hearing loss, then, excuse me, if until we get that device in there, until we can get the things in their ears to make them listen better, are there things that you can do to get a listener's attention if you are having hearing loss, or if you're talking to them?
For sure. I mean, there's two camps of people with hearing loss. One has mild to moderate hearing loss. That's early onset of presbycusis. 65, a bit of trouble with treble. Other people seem to develop more of a severe hearing loss, and those people literally can't hear without the hearing aids. The person with mild to moderate hearing loss can hear without the hearing aids, but he or she just has difficulty, especially in noise, and a chain is as strong as its weakest link. But for someone with severe hearing loss, the best thing the public can do for that person is, first of all, get the person's attention. At least wave or let the person know you're there. Okay? Then let the person see your face. Because they're not only using the hearing aids that are in their ears, they're using their eyes as a hearing aids as well. They're lip reading, which is fine. That's just called survival of the human spirit. And speak a little bit slower. You don't have to talk like this, but just slow down a little bit. You know, when you hear flight attendants on airplanes when you've landed, and please remain in your seats until the captain has brought the plane to a complete stop at the terminal gate. Yeah. We know you can choose airlines. Blah, 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 blah. No, stop doing that. Just slow down a little bit. Let the person see your face. And if he didn't hear what you said, rephrase it. Don't repeat it. Rephrase. Say it differently. So 4 things: get the listener's attention, let the person see your face, slow down a bit, not a lot, just slow down to 60 instead of going 80.
All right.
And and rephrase.
All right. Coming up next, we'll get into more specifics about hearing loss, and we will also talk about specifics and the importance of hearing tests. That's next on CL 650's Boomer Life.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.